Good morning, everyone. We'll get started here in a few minutes. In the meantime, if you want to enter your name and organization in the chat box, introduce yourself that way, that'd be great.
Oh, let's start video.
Good morning, everyone. We'll give it a couple more minutes and let more people log in. We've got about, 38 so far, so expecting a few more. If you would, just go ahead and chat your name and organization in the chat box.
Can you guys hear this?
Yes. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the third webinar of our third and last webinar of our electric school bus webinar series. It's been a great series. We're very excited to put it on. So the first two webinars were in December, and like I said, this is our last one. All of our meetings have been recorded and will be posted on our website, and I'll show you that URL on a later slide. The slide deck will also be posted on our website so that you can easily click on the links. So if you would, when you're not speaking, mute your microphones. And those of you that are just now joining us, if you would, enter your name and organization in the chat box. And like I said, the meeting is being recorded. Next slide. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about North Central Texas Council of Governments, if you're not familiar with us. My name is Amy Hodges. I'm a senior air quality planner with the North Central Texas Council of Governments, and I'm also Dallas-Fort Worth Clean Cities staff. I wanted to acknowledge our staff member, Savannah Nance, who's been very instrumental in putting on this webinar series. Also, Lori Clark is our Clean Cities coordinator, and she's also an air quality program manager for the Council of Governments. So the Council of Governments assists local governments in regional planning and coordination for a 16 county region here in North Texas. Within the Council of Governments, we are also the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the DFW region. So we do regional transportation planning for a 12 county area. So we also do air quality work as part of our transportation work because we have 10 counties in the region that are non-attainment for ground level ozone. And so we try to mitigate ozone through our clean vehicle initiatives. And we basically do that through the Dallas-Fort Worth Clean Cities Coalition. And that is housed within the Council of Governments. Next slide. So a little bit about Clean Cities, if you're not familiar with that program. It's a national program within the Department of Energy. There are about 100 Clean Cities coalitions across the United States, and these are local organizations that work closely with fleets in their regions to assist in the use of alternative fuels and to encourage and implement best practices to make fleets more efficient and to reduce emissions and reduce fuel consumption. And here on this slide, you can see some of the methods, such as idle reduction. Next slide. The Clean Cities program, since its inception, has really had a big impact. The cumulative impact in energy use has been equal to nearly 10 billion gasoline gallon equivalents. Another example is about 96 million gasoline gallon equivalents of energy has been saved through various things like use of telematics, driver training, which would be driver behavior, and idle reduction. Next slide. So here's an example of some of the things that we do. We disseminate a lot of information and educate fleets on decision-making tools that are available. We give one-on-one assistance. We try to hook fleets up with training and partnerships. Definitely tell fleets about grant funding, but definitely want to be used as a resource to answer fleets' questions. We have a network of peer Clean Cities coalitions, as I mentioned, across the United States. And we all work with the national labs. So if you ask us a question that we're not able to answer, we can definitely pass it up the chain and find you an answer. Okay, next slide. So we are here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but across the state, there's other Clean Cities coalitions. So in the Austin area, there's the Lone Star Clean Fuels Alliance, which is run by Elizabeth Munger. Also in the Austin area is the Capital Area Council of Governments. And then in Houston, there's the Houston Galveston Area Council, which hosts the Houston Galveston Clean Cities, and Andrew DeCantis is our counterpart down there. And then in San Antonio, there's the Alamo Area Council of Governments, which houses the Alamo Area Clean Cities Coalition. And down there is Lyle Huffstetler. Okay, next slide. So today we have a full agenda. As you can see, so we're under a pretty tight schedule. So I'll be watching the time and telling people when their time is just about up. We'll have line electric, and then we'll have a big focus on funding. And next slide. So here is our URL where we have the recordings and the presentations posted. And this is just an overview of the webinars that we've had so far. They're all posted on our website. So with that, Luke, if you would share your screen, we'll just go ahead and get started.
Great, thank you, Amy. Let me go ahead and start that. So yeah, my name is Luke Metzger. I'm the Executive Director of Environment Texas. We're a nonprofit advocacy organization working for clean air, clean water, and open spaces based in Austin, but working all around Texas. And we're very excited about the opportunity for electric school buses to help protect children's health. We know that air pollution from transportation is a major health problem. In 2015, about 22,000 Americans died prematurely from air pollution from the transportation sector, of which about 43% of those deaths, according to a recent study, came from diesel emissions from buses, trucks, the shipping sector. So diesel buses are a particular threat to human health and the environment. But children are especially vulnerable to air pollution. Their airways are smaller than those of adults, and so more susceptible to inflammation and injury. Their lungs are not fully developed until their teenage years, and they breathe more through their mouths. And so they bypass the nasal filtration that protects us from some of these pollutants. And so diesel buses are a particular threat to kids. And we know around the country, about 95% of school buses run on diesel. And inhaling diesel exhaust can cause respiratory diseases and worsen existing conditions like asthma. Diesel exhaust is also an internationally recognized carcinogen and cancer-causing agent, including by the likely carcinogen by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And then also recently we've seen, that coronavirus patients in areas that had high levels of air pollution were more likely to die from infection than from patients in the cleaner parts of the country. And so again, just a reminder of how important clean air is for protecting our health. So electric buses don't have tailpipe pollution, so they eliminate the exhaust that is linked to asthma attacks, respiratory illnesses, and cancer. So much cleaner for children's health. And there have been studies that have shown that both helps reduce risk of asthma attacks, but also has led to educational benefits and boosting testing scores in reading and math. And electric buses are better for the planet. If we were to replace all of America's school buses with electric, we could significantly reduce the emissions that are exacerbating the climate crisis. So there are a few opportunities for Texas school districts to seek funding. The settlement with Volkswagen, as many folks know, EPA or the TCEQ, created this funding round for school buses. That was very popular. All the funding kind of went quickly. We are now asking the governor to reallocate funds to a new round. There are still existing VW monies that haven't been spent. And so we're asking the governor to create a new round of funding that would be specific to electric school buses. And we actually have a letter that I'll put in the link after I'm done. We're asking folks to sign, so including school board members, directors of transportation, utilities, others around the state, to urge the governor to move forward with that. We're also asking the governor to make sure that the Texas Clean School Bus Program as part of TERP is fully funded. And I should mention that the Senator Harris, Vice President-elect Harris now has filed a bill for a clean school bus program to basically fund about $1 billion to support electric school buses. And so we're optimistic that her legislation might be part of a stimulus package that the Biden administration moves forward. And so that'll be another big opportunity. So get your applications ready. Hopefully we can get the spigot of money flowing so that we can get more electric school buses on the road. Thank you.
I think I'm up next. Hey, I'm Maria Brown. I'm with Line Electric. I'm the Southeast Sales Manager. I also have Kevin King on here. He's our Northeast Sales Manager. He's just here to help me out and help answer any questions that may come up. What's up? Okay, so can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to start you off with a short video. I'm just going to go through who we are, what we do, how we do it. If you're not familiar with Lion, I think this is a good short video that's going to give you a good perspective.
Welcome to Lion Electric. Lion Electric is an innovative manufacturer of zero-emission vehicles. We create, design, and manufacture all-electric Class 5 to Class 8 commercial urban trucks and all-electric buses and minibuses for the school, paratransit, and mass transit segments. Lion is a North American leader in electric transportation and designs, and we build and assemble all of our vehicles' components, including chassis, battery packs, truck cabins, and bus bodies. Let me introduce you to Lion Electric's facility in St. Jerome, Canada. Lion's operations cover 200,000 square feet, and we have the capacity to produce 2,500 vehicles a year. All products are conceptualized, designed, developed, and manufactured by Lion. Our vehicles are purpose-built and dedicated to being 100% electric. At Lion Electric, we also assemble our own battery packs. We have developed our own battery management system, BMS, and Battery Thermal Management System, BTMS, to maximize the safety and performance of our batteries in all situations, from extreme heat to sub-zero Siberian temperatures. Here is our truck assembly line. All our vehicles are fully developed, engineered, and assembled here at Lion. We are extremely proud of the fact that we build all of our vehicles ourselves, from start to finish. This is the Lion C and Lion D body assembly line, where our full-size school buses are manufactured. All of our vehicles are then inspected and subjected to quality control with the highest standards, including on-road testing. This is our Lion A and Lion M product line. The Lion A is intended for schools with special needs students, while the Lion M is a shuttle minibus. We also have service centers all over North America to support our customers directly in their home markets. As you have seen, Lion Electric is very real. In fact, we have over 300 vehicles on the road right now, with more than 6 million real-world miles driven. We have 7 different types of 100% electric heavy-duty vehicles available today, and in 2021, we will increase to 11. Lion Electric, the bright move.
All right, so as you heard in the video, where we are today, we have over 300 vehicles in operation. That includes trucks and buses, with over 6 million miles recorded. On this map here, you can see where we have experience centers. The experience centers are the service and maintenance, also provide training. So as we deploy units in other areas, we will be adding experience centers as needed. So I'll show you here kind of where we're headed for 2021. On that map on the bottom there, you'll see in yellow where we are adding experience centers. And this is based on deployments of buses and trucks in that area. You know, Lion is continuing to grow. We are going to be building, or we're putting another manufacturing facility in the US. So right now we have a capacity of 2,500 units in Canada, and then with the additional manufacturing facility, we'll be adding to that capacity. We are also going to be building our own battery system and assembling them. So the benefits of this really are the cost. So we expect the cost of our batteries to go down by about 50–55%. And this is really key to the cost of the vehicle. What really drives the cost of the vehicle is the battery system. So if we can develop our own and take that middleman cost out, it's really going to help us out. The other benefits is we're not relying on the supplier. So right now we have multiple battery suppliers. As we saw this year with the pandemic, you know, your supply chain was unknown and unsure about, you know, whether we were going to be able to keep production running. But being able to develop and plan our own battery system, we'll be able to support that supply chain. So here I'm going to show you, if you're not familiar with what a Lion bus looks like, I'm going to show you here what we have to offer. I mean, at first look, it's going to look like a normal school bus. So I'm just going to go through kind of what some of the differences are that you'll see in a Lion. We'll do the C. Okay, so at first glance, you're going to see, you know, it looks like your typical school bus. But what's different is our body is a composite body. So what you're used to is a steel body. This is going to be a lighter weight product. So you're going to get more miles per kilowatt hour with this composite body. You're also not going to have the that fading and the rust issues that you'll see with a steel body. As you probably saw in the video, we have a one-piece roof. So this is going to prevent a lot of the leak issues that you may see. Let's go to the front of the bus here. So we offer, on the Type C, we offer a 96-inch wide and a 102. And what this does is add 6 inches to the inner the aisle width on the inside of the bus, which I'll show you once we get inside of there. So it really makes it easier for students to get in and out of the bus. It makes it easier for the driver to get to the back of the bus for your child check system, or if there's a wheelchair lift or something that they need to go front to back a lot. It, you know, it just makes it easier to maneuver around. We offer a variety of ranges on the Type C. So we have we have 3 different battery packs. So you can get 100, 125, or 155 range. So it just depends on what routes you're running and what your need is. So now we can go to the inside of the bus. I'll show you. So this is what your driver's area looks like. Pretty typical, other than maybe the screen over here. So you have your different switches over here. One of the switches that I want to point out is the regen switch. So if you're in a situation where you're on an icy road or wet conditions, you can flip that regen switch and it'll turn off your regenerative braking. So this gives you full control of your braking system. Right here we have, so right here, and this is going to show you the same thing. So that in the middle there is going to be your miles per hour. Over here is going to be your miles per kilowatt hour, and then over here is your state of charge. So how many miles you have left until you're empty. And then, I mean, pretty much everything else in here is kind of what you're used to for your driver's cockpit area. Sorry. Then, oh, you know what I didn't show you? Let me show you this. On On the bottom here, you have your master disconnect switch. So if there is an accident or something, the driver has control to completely turn off the battery system from right here. This is another view. I can show you the aisle width from here if I turn it around. You can see this is a 102, so this is the additional 6 inches in aisle width. You can see what a difference that makes in getting in and out of this bus. Again, this is just another view from the inside. Like, it looks, you know, a lot like your typical school bus. So here's under the hood. So this is going to be this is your high voltage system right here. And then you have your driver's heater right here. This is a noisemaker. So we all know that electric school buses are really quiet. So this, you can program it how you want it, but from the factory it comes turned on with, if you have your accelerator pedal depressed, then it's gonna, and you're going under 20 miles an hour, it's gonna play a noise. You can custom the noise to your school fight song or whatever it may be. There's also a switch on the inside for you to turn it off. So say you're stuck in traffic and you're going 10 miles an hour and you don't want this music constantly playing. There's a switch on the inside that will turn that off for you. This is kind of the upper view of what's under the hood. So you have like your power steering reservoir, your coolant for your coolant reservoir for your motor. Here's what your step well looks like. Here's your charging point. So this is an AC. You can have an AC and a DC, just depends on, you know, what your preference is, or if you just want DC charging, it's all going to be right there for you. Another thing I want to point out is we have these lights up here, these 3 lights, and this is just a real quick indicator. It's just a real good visual of where your state of charge is at. So each one of these lights indicates 33% of charge. So if all 3 lights are solid, that means you're at 100% charge. If, you know, and when you have this plugged in, you'll see, like, if you're at 75%, then you're going to have these 2 lights solid, and this one's going to be blinking saying you're more than 66% charged, but you're not quite at 100. So it's just a real good quick visual to see how much charge your bus has. We're going to go to the chassis here, give you a view of this. So these are your battery packs. This is your direct drive motor, so you don't have a transmission. This is your inverter. So this converts your, if you have an AC charger, this is going to convert your AC into DC, which is what the batteries need to charge. And then you have another battery pack back here. All the other components that we have on here are going to be similar to what you're used to on your other school buses, you know, Hendrickson suspension, Dana axles, Bendix air disc brakes, that kind of thing. So let me go back to our presentation. Give me 1 second here, sorry. I lost my presentation, sorry. We'll pick up. Sorry, it's really slow. Anyway, on the next slide, I'm just going to show you some. I didn't really go through the A and D product, but we do offer, you know, an A and D product as well. So the range on your type A, we offer 75 and a 150, and the range on the D is the same. So it's going to be 100, 125, and 155. And if you need any further information about either of those products, I'd be happy to share that. So how does Lion support you? So we have a number of different teams that we use to support everything from finding funding to after you have the bus and your service support. So we have the Lion grant team. This team is there to help find funding in your area, and also to help with writing the applications. They are the experts in application writing, so they are more than happy to help you walk through that process. We have the Lion Energy team. So this is our infrastructure experts. We have partnered with a number of different infrastructure companies. And so they can come in, figure out what your wants, what your needs are. Do you want AC? Do you want DC? Do you want V2G? You know, how many miles are you running a day? How many vehicles do you want? And what's your facility look like? Where should we put this infrastructure at? So they are the experts in it. They're going to be there from design to implementation and beyond for support. Lion Academy, this is our training group. So they provide full service training. They'll also provide maintenance and driver training as needed. We have the Lion Beat, which on the bus, if you saw that screen to the right, this is the telematics system. So this gives you real-time analytics. It's going to give you everything about your driver behavior. You know, how much are they utilizing the regenerative braking? What are their miles per kilowatt hours? How fast are they going? You know, if they're turning, you know, what's their speed on a turn? I mean, there's so much information that can be given by this telematics, and it's also going to help with maintenance. So any kind of error that you receive, you know, we can dial into your bus, see what the issues are, and troubleshoot with you. And then Bright Squad are the experience centers. So as I mentioned, you know, we have another number of experience centers coming in 2021 to support the deployments throughout the entire US. So that is all I have for you, and I'm sure there are some questions. So
everyone, feel free to unmute yourself and ask Maria questions.
I'll also flag for everybody, in case you haven't been looking at the chat, that there's been some good Q&A courtesy of Jason Gillis already provided. So make sure you take a look at that for everybody else.
This is Jimmy Hosh. Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, I noticed that you are planning a service center in Texas.
Yes.
Do you have a expected opening date for that?
Not at this time, but I can find out more information on it. I know we've been working with a number of different facilities down there, but I'm not sure that it's been completely.
Okay. The second question has to do with the great state of Texas legislature. They are in session, and they currently believe that you cannot sell a vehicle in Texas without a dealership. Do you have any activities in Austin to convince them otherwise?
I don't know that we're working to convince them otherwise, but we are working with a number of dealerships to sell through.
Okay.
So we have been in works with that, especially on the truck side.
Okay.
Jimmy, this is Kevin King with Lion. One other thought on your question around experience centers. As you alluded to, Texas is a great state in many areas, including size. So right now we're just looking at one experience center, but we will have servicing dealers in other parts of the state as well, or servicing centers, not necessarily dealers, if I'm going to get caught up in a legal issue here, but servicing centers.
Okay. The other thing is on distance range. what do you have any expectations of pushing beyond 150 miles on
Sure.
range?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Kevin, you want to speak to this one?
I was just going to say, as we're looking at advancements in battery capacity, we do anticipate, if not in 2021, perhaps in 2022, ranging our buses out upwards of 200 miles.
Okay.
The demand for that is not that great at this point, as you guys know far better than we do. Typically, ranges run 20 to 30 miles, or routes run 20 to 30 miles.
Well, I'm
But
working
we are
with
looking at a bus that will range capacity.
I'm working with Dallas Independent School District, and they absolutely claim that
Yep.
every one of their buses runs 200 miles in the morning and 200 miles in the afternoon. Now,
Yep.
I don't want to be on that bus if it's going that fast, but that's what they claim.
Yep.
And so I need to have some kind of ammunition when they come up with those outrageous claims to counter them with.
That range is in development as we speak. I can't give you a timeline. I don't think it will be 2021, but more likely 2022. We will have a bus with that type of range.
Thank you very much.
Maggie, forgive me if you've already said, but where is that experience center planned for, the location in Texas?
We're looking at Dallas area right now.
Oh, great.
I have a follow-up question on range, if you guys don't mind. This is Savannah from COG. We've been told that whenever running the heater, if it's electric, it significantly decreases the range. Are you guys having that same issue? I know you mostly operate up north.
We do see, if you're going to run, we do offer in environments that do require heat of that type of a strong nature or strong usage. We can offer an auxiliary diesel heater or all electric. We see our electric is using approximately 6 to 7 additional kilowatts per hour of use.
Do you have an estimate of how much that reduces the range?
Again, it depends on the range of the bus to begin with, but and alluding to what I just we touched base on earlier, given that most ranges outside of what we hear about Dallas are significantly less than what our buses offer, it has not a 3-hour run. It can be as much as 20 to 25% of the capacity on a 100-mile bus, certainly less than that on a 125 or 155-mile bus.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Jimmy Haas again. On that issue of air conditioning, have you looked at the possibility of using heat pumps instead of a standard air conditioner? A heat pump, I think, would satisfy the need in Dallas. Probably not in New Hampshire, but Dallas.
I'm not sure about that one. Kevin, do you know if that's something we've looked into?
I've heard discussion around it. I'm not sure. I will look into that and we will get back to you with a response, Jim.
Look into it.
And Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Jason.
Okay.
Yes,
On the C style buses and the D styles, is that 72 and like up to 85 passengers? What are the passenger ratings for each bus?
On the C, we can go up to 77, but with a 100-mile maximum range because of weight, the additional battery weight. Typically with max range bus, we're going 72 passenger on the C, and the D can go up to 84 passenger.
Okay. Are the frames and the battery packs, is that basically the same between the C and the D, or does the D have increased battery storage?
It's exactly the same.
They're the same. Yeah.
And so is the D style a rear engine, rear motor?
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They both have the rear drive motor, yes.
Okay. And do you know how many Lion buses are on the road right now?
We have over
We are
300.
coming up to 4. Yeah, we delivered Twin Cities in California. I took delivery of 10 last week. They brought their fleet to 40, and they have the largest percentage of electric to fleet in the US at this point. But we are actually getting close. We still say 300 for conservative sake, but we're actually getting closer to 400. We're north of 370 at this point, is my understanding. And to the question earlier about heat, we're running probably 35 or 40% of those in what I'll describe as cold weather environments. Quebec, Ontario, Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois, Massachusetts, areas like that. So we have a good round of experience in terms of where our buses operate.
Hi, this is Marcia Coker at Wiley ISD. I have a question concerning the composite body. Has that been any kind of safety ratings on that as it relates to accidental collisions, especially with our patrons that like to disregard the stop sign?
Yeah, our buses meet all the national safety standards. So there is no difference in safety concerns for a composite body.
With that has been in Maryland, where they require a steel body, but I believe we have not just had it approved. It's in the process of being an approved equal in the state of Maryland, but all the other states we've had no issue in terms of the composite body.
Thank you.
Sure.
Welcome.
And what is the delivery date, or what is the delivery timeline from when they're ordered until time they can be delivered?
A Lion C right now, we're probably at about 90 to 120 days. A Lion D, the first one has not come off the production line left, and we have yet, and we have a number of them in production and a number of orders that have not entered production. I would say Lion D, you would probably see more toward the third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter of this year.
Any other questions for the Lion folks before we move into our funding part of the webinar? And there will be some time at the end probably for more questions. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Next, we have Joe Walton of TCEQ to talk about their funding opportunities. So Joe, if you
how y'all doing? Yeah, my name is Joe Walton. I'm with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. I am the technical advisor for the Air Grants Division of the TCEQ. Better known for, maybe for you guys that I am the one who's going to talk to you about money, so the money guy. With that, I'll get started. I want to go do an overview of the TERP program and then the Texas Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Plan program. And at the end, I'll leave it open for some Q&A. So what does TERP do? We provide grants to reduce nitrogen oxides, or NOx, from emission from mobile sources. We also have programs to encourage the use of alternative fuels. Alternative fuels includes electric that you guys are concentrated on, as well as, natural gas, propane, or anything else like that that's related. The key to these grant programs is the early retirement of the heavy duty vehicles. And that means, destruction of an existing vehicle. Whereas this new, as you guys are interested in, electric vehicle is important to us. What's even more important is the old vehicle you're destroying, getting rid of. because that gets rid of the surplus emissions in the state and gives us a calculation to determine your grant amount. We want you to replace that with a newer, cleaner model. And again, the new one's important, but it's that old one that you're destroying is the most important part of the grant. We have multiple programs here in TERP, many, many programs. I am not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to go through the ones that, that you're most interested in for funding for electric school buses. So the first one is our DERI program, the Diesel Emissions Reduction Grants. This is TERP. When people say TERP, this is generally what they mean, because this was the original program back in 2000, 2001 when it was formed. This biennium, we're going to fund around 45 million. Regretfully, it just closed 2 days ago on the ERIG program. Again, the ERIG part of it, the Emission Reduction Incentive Grant, it's a competitive program where we replace older heavy-duty diesel vehicles, which include school buses, with something newer and cleaner. Projects are ranked by cost per ton plus risk, and we fund the most cost-effective, the most bang for the state's buck on down till we run out of money. The rebate grant program is a simplified version of that, where we do everything by a table amount. We predetermine that cost per ton. You only can apply for one vehicle at a time, but you're replacing vehicle X with vehicle Y. There's a table for you. You just follow your fingers across the table amount, meet those two things, and you see what your grant amount is. It's that simple. Again, they also involve, both of these involve destruction of an old vehicle. We do have the Texas Clean School Bus Program, which is extremely popular program for us. It's was originally designed to retrofit the older diesels buses with things to control the PM in and around the bus. This program is one of ours that is not based around NOx, even though we do calculate it. This program is about the particulate matter that's in and around the bus that was talked about earlier in the presentations. It did turn into a program by legislation where we can replace buses that are older, pre-2006, before the tighter standards were made, with a newer, cleaner bus. You have a maximum of 5 buses per grant application. It is a first come, first serve program. It works like that rebate. You just move your fingers across the chart. You find out your grant amount. It's again, very popular since it's first come, first serve. When these grant rounds open, you need to be in the door real quick, like day 1, day 2 quick. The light duty purchase incentive grant program, it's a first come, first serve program for light duty vehicles. So if your school district does have some, cars that you use and other things, this does qualify. It is a statewide program. Most of our other programs do have grant areas where we identify certain counties on the map. They're generally our populated counties in the state. But this one is statewide. It's, again, first come, first serve. We can do 2,000 electric vehicles a biennium every 2 years with this program. This program does have the requirement that the vehicle has to be purchased in Texas. All our other programs you can buy straight from the manufacturer if your purchasing requirements allow you to, as alluded to by an earlier question. But this one, purchase has to be made in the state of Texas. The Clean Fleet program provides grants on a competitive basis for fleets of 75 or more. You have to apply to replace 10 or more vehicles with some sort of alternative fuel, which includes electric. Again, it works like the ERG program I talked about before, where we fund the most cost-effective programs first and we work down our list. We also have an alternative fueling facilities program, which can pay for the fueling facility, such as your electric charging stations that you would need to charge your buses. There is a requirement that we must fund all the public ones first. Then we can consider the private ones, and the school districts would be private ones. So if there's money left over after we fund the ones that do public charging or public refueling, we can fund the private ones. I threw a lot at you. We have a 1-800 number here or an email. Go to our website. When you call, say, hey, I want to speak about this program, they'll give you to a subject matter expert on that program, or you can contact me directly. I'll put my contact information in the chat bar when I'm done. So the Texas Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Program, as you guys know, was enacted across the nation. 2.9 billion went into this trust. It got divided out amongst the states, and in Texas we have $209 million available for funding. We do several different, it's divided out into sub-programs based off of what the trust agreement says, for local freight trucks, for higher class freight trucks, refuse trucks, school buses, transit buses, airport ground equipment. You can see the list here. You guys are most important about the school buses. The areas that you can only fund with the Volkswagen mitigation money are the shaded in areas on this map. It was based off of air quality standards at the time that the program was enacted. Those that were above the line were not funded. Those are below the line were eligible areas. But you can see it's the populated areas in Texas. So the funding, we did have a grant round for school buses and shuttle buses and other things. It closed. We funded out the entire amount. We have these other programs that we are opening and releasing in order. That being said, we do know that these other programs are not as funded or money allocated fully as the school and transit buses was. The chairman will make a decision later on during this year of what to do with that leftover money. Whether or not it goes back to another school program is up to him, or if he chooses to go another route. But I will say that the most program that was oversubscribed by far is the school transit and shuttle bus program. And here's information if you want more on the Texas Volkswagen's funds. Again, I encourage you to go to the website, look at the grants, look at what we've done, if you're going to apply for in the future, or call the number, talk to somebody. There is a question I meant to address earlier in my talk about funding time, because how long does it take to purchase these vehicles? In the TERP programs, you're going to get about 18 months after we contract, give or take. Some contracts might be less, some might be more, but an over good generalization is 18 months. With the Volkswagen program, we're going to give you about 2 years to make your purchase once you get the contract. So once you get the contract, you don't have to do the purchase right away. You don't have to have everything in place. You can, work over that time period to get the purchase in place. Because I know, school districts work on a funding cycle. You might be searching for outside money. This is a part that's very important. The Volkswagen money and the TERP money cannot be blended together, or multiple TERP programs cannot be blended together. We cannot blend the money from these programs because each program claims the emission reduction from that grant that we give out. If you are getting other money that does not claim an emission reduction, whether it's federal, whether it's state, as long as it does not claim emission reductions, you can blend that with the funds we give you, as long as you do not profit on the grant. In other words, that grant money plus our grant money is equal more than what it did cost you to buy the bus or the electric charging unit, the project in general. But yes, you can blend money that way, and it is very much encouraged. With that, I know I went quick. There's a lot of stuff there. Please ask questions.
Hey, Joe. Oh,
Yes.
It's Savannah from North Central Texas Council of Governments. Just for everyone's benefit, all of these programs that you listed, the Clean School Bus, is the main one. They're all going to be funded in 2020, 2021.
Right. Our fiscal biennium will start up again in September 2021. Based on current legislation, TERP will get probably 4 times the amount of money as this last biennium. Again, that's based off of current legislation. I never predict what comes out of the legislative body every legislative session. But starting September 1, these programs will be opening up on a cycle. We can't open them all at once, resource issues, you understand. But they'll be opened up on a cycle where everybody will apply again. If you sign up for our TERP email addresses and our VW, when you go to our website, there's places for you to sign up for alerts. We will give you emails to alert you that a program is coming, will be opened, or things like that.
Joe, this is Durham from Dallas ISD.
Yes, sir.
I had a question. I think I was reading one of the criteria or some of it. Was it, do we have to, I think it was one with the replacing 10 of our units. So I think one of the criteria was that we had to like destroy 10 of ours or have them crushed or something like that first before we can go into the process.
No, you, in all these programs, you can apply before you do anything.
Okay.
So, you know, in case you don't get funded, we don't want you destroying things because, you know, then you're out of buses.
Okay.
In the TERP program, we will even pay you before you have to destroy your bus, but you'll have 90 days after we pay you your reimbursement to destroy your bus. In the VW program, however, based off the trust agreement, you have to destroy your bus before payment. Not before we contract you, but before we pay you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Joe before we move on?
Again, contact those 1-800 numbers I gave you or contact me directly, but I do highly encourage everybody to go to our website, click on the email listserv and sign up so you will get the alerts from when we open programs. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate what Joe said about how TCEQ provides, 18 months or 2 years. Not only does that get the school districts time to find other funding, but also allows you to spread out purchases across multiple budget years. So keep that in mind.
It looks like there's a question in the chat, Joe. It says, is there a way that you could make this PowerPoint accessible to us? To answer your question, Shelby, this whole webinar will be posted on our website and all the slide decks will be together as a separate posting right by the recording. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Question?
And also, if you go to our website, we have presentations from previous programs, openings and closings and stuff. So we have multiple presentations you can go look at if you would like.
Okay, I think we'll just move on to just kind of try to keep on schedule. Jared, if you want to share the next slide for me. So I just quickly wanted to share 2 EPA programs. They're not open at the moment, but we anticipate them later in 2021. So the first one is the Clean Diesel Funding Assistance Program. It's open to public entities. It's to replace or repower heavy duty diesel equipment and vehicles. The model years are shown there for you. The GVWR must be over 16,000 pounds. And then for the funding levels for this one, You can get up to 45% of the cost covered if the new vehicle for a replacement is electric. If it's a repower, 60%. And then up to 35% of the cost if the new vehicle is powered by an engine that's certified to be carb low NOx, a carb low NOx standard. Right now, the only engines that are available for low NOx is their CNG and their propane. And then if it's a repower, it's up to 50%. And then if you replace everything else is 25% of the cost. So if you're replacing diesel with diesel, it'd be 25% of the cost covered. And for a repower, it's up to 40%. We anticipate that one opening up the winter of this year. So at the end of this year. And then the other EPA program is a very popular program, the DERA school rebate program. Is to replace school buses, diesel school buses. The model years are there for you. The GVWR only has to be greater than 10,000 pounds. Your funding levels are there for you. 65,000 for battery or hydrogen electric. The maximum rebate per application is 300,000. You can have up to 10 vehicles on one application. And this application is so simple. The application itself is 1 page, and then you have 2 pages of instructions. So the whole thing is 3 pages, and most of that explain the first page. And we expect this one to open up again this fall. Next slide. The Council of Governments has a couple of programs open right now. Clean Fleets North Texas, it's open to local governments or private companies that contract with local governments. And this is to replace heavy duty diesel vehicles and equipment. Model years are shown there for you. GVWR must be over 16,000 pounds. You can get up to 45% of the cost covered if the new vehicle is electric. And then again, up to 35 if the engine's certified to be carb low NOx, and then up to 25% of the cost for all other fuel types. It just so happens, as of last Friday, all the money in Clean Fleets North Texas has been applied for. We're leaving it open for more applications until we evaluate those applications. So our next deadline will be April 9th for applications. The final deadline is October 8th. The other COG funding that's open right now is North Texas Emissions Reduction Project. Its eligible applicants are private entities. Everything else about it is the same as far as eligible activities and vehicle criteria and same deadlines. It's just open to private entities. I wanted to point out the URL at the bottom of the slide, and Lori chatted about this, that you can look at all available funding on our website, nctcog.org, AQ funding. And on that page, as Lori said, there is a spreadsheet that has all funding and the anticipated point it will be open. And also you're able to sign up for email updates. If you want to be notified by email when something opens up, maybe you're not good about continuing to go back to the website to check, you could get an email if you sign up. So that's all I have. Next, we will have Highland Electric, and that will be Duncan McIntyre.
Amy, if I can jump in for just a second. Sorry, Duncan. I just wanted to go back to the EPA National Clean Diesel Program, where it's 45% funding for zero emission, and you can include the infrastructure with that. When EPA puts that opportunity out, we apply every single year, like clockwork. It's not a heavy lift for us to put a proposal together. If there is interest from districts in our region in doing electric school bus purchases to scrap old diesel, we can do the proposal perhaps on behalf of the region. So keep that in mind. If that's something you're interested in, please reach out to us, let us know, because we try to submit stuff to EPA that we know interest for. So I just put that ask out there. Don't be shy.
That's it.
Carry on, Duncan. Sorry about that.
No problem. Good morning, everyone. Duncan McIntyre with Highland Electric Transportation. Nice to meet you all virtually through this forum. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to share a little bit about what we do. I'm going to share my screen. While I do that, I would encourage anyone to interrupt me as I go through. Happy to make this a dynamic, iterative sort of discussion. So we at Highland are focused entirely on school bus electrification. That's all we do. Unlike Lion, who presented earlier, we do not manufacture anything, but we provide a turnkey solution for school districts to support their interest in electrification. I think one of the things that makes us keenly interested in Texas is it's a very large state that's very, we think, a very viable candidate for school bus electrification. There's a ton of pupils. There's a number of areas that you've highlighted that are ripe targets to really improve air quality and to do it in the areas where the youngest members of our population exist. As you've talked about, the vast majority of the fleets are diesel fleets, and there's just a huge amount of health benefits, and we believe strong economic benefits as well associated with this transition taking place over time. I think maybe we'd frame up this conversation by saying that the reason we're all here is because diesel pollution has harmful effects on people from a health standpoint. It's also a contributing factor to climate change. The key reasons why the transition hasn't happened faster would largely be upfront cost, right? It's cost prohibitive to buy an electric school bus when a diesel is a third of the price, using round numbers. And in addition to the cost obstacle, it's complicated. There's the matter of selecting technology, designing infrastructure at depots, integrating hardware and software, working with the electric utility to put in what are a very large infrastructure projects, which are often sort of, it's a piece of this market that's often poorly understood at the front end, but you get into it very quickly when you try to implement a project. The elements that are, I think, easy to identify are the fact that you need a charging station. You might need some software to manage that charging station. But there's a bunch of soft costs that are harder to identify up front. And that's everything from what goes underground, how you interact with the utility, how you get the permits, and how you really set up what we'd call the fueling infrastructure required for a project that will electrify these bus fleets. If we're going to just come back to these two primary obstacles, cost and complexity, we think that cost can be solved with a combination of a few strategies. And we take on the obligation as a company to solve these, to solve cost with these strategies. The first is operational cost savings. When you run an electric school bus as compared to a diesel, there are far fewer moving parts, which results in lower maintenance costs. And there's a more economically efficient fueling design. Kilowatt hours are cheaper than gallons of diesel, and there's significant fuel savings. I think Texas has a particularly unique opportunity in that the wind industry has done just a remarkable job of becoming a very meaningful piece of the energy supply stack. And school buses tend to charge overnight and off peak during times when renewable generation is at its highest, yet demand is at its lowest. So I'll get into this in a little bit, but we think that Texas is maybe one of the most interesting markets for this reason. The second sort of value stream is all around vehicle to grid services. When these buses sit idle over the summer and the evenings, the batteries can be used to support the ERCOT system or the local utility. There's tons of use cases for how that works. I'll give you one example, which we're doing in Massachusetts, where we're effectively doing peak shifting during the summer months for 2 hours on weekdays. That helps the utility integrate more renewables. It helps them meet resource adequacy obligations in the evenings and provides supplemental income that lowers the cost of school busing for the district. The third cost, I would say, strategy is all around the declining purchase price. It may be 3x today, but next year, the year after that, Lion talked about advancements in battery technology, as well as their effort to bring that manufacturing in-house. That's a perfect example of what we are seeing next year, the year after, and the year after that. And we believe that the inflection point where the upfront price of an electric bus versus a diesel is far closer than many people believe. And then finally, incentives. I think we've learned in the last hour about a number of incentive buckets, which are fantastic. There's more available funding in Texas than there are in most states for these activities. And the devil's in the details. So for anyone building a project, you really have to look at all the available incentive opportunities, navigate the pros and cons, figure out what you're eligible for, and apply. And so we take on all of these responsibilities for school districts as a partner. I think one key framework that we like to use is just anyone interested in trying an electric school bus or converting their whole fleet or anything in between. They can take an independent path, seek the grants, hire an engineering firm, make some technology selections, and then seek support from their taxpayer. Our turnkey path allows districts to wash their hands of all those complexities. And our offering includes us applying for grants, funding all of the non-grant funded money, which is usually, between 50 and 90% of the project requires real hard investment dollars. We design and complete the construction, install all the charging stations and network them. And then we provide all the electricity and the vehicles and guarantee a maintenance cost cap for 10, 12, 15 years. So much like the solar industry and the wind industry blossomed with the support of private developers that could take on risks, monetize tax credits, and ultimately provide a simple power purchase agreement to municipalities and utilities, we do the same exact thing for school bus electrification. Fixed price, a lot of risk transfer to us, and most importantly, aligned with existing transportation budgets. We do not expect any school district wants to pay a premium to convert their bus fleet. We think it can be done within current budgets. We call it school bus electrification as a service. Ultimately, we don't ask the districts to think of us as a contractor. We don't need to hire drivers. We don't need to hire mechanics. We leverage every aspect of what they do really well today. And they can think of us a little bit more like a provider of financing and services, much like a bank might help them finance or lease a bus, and a distributor might help provide fuel. We bundle and package those aspects for the electric. We think about it as planning, financing, operations, and to the extent we're able to use the batteries successfully in the summer to earn supplemental income, we pass that back to the district in the form of a lower annual contract price. And that aspect helps us justify and reach budget neutrality. I think for anyone looking at this space, there's a cost benefit analysis associated with this type of transition. There are perceived risks, and there are perceived, and there's often uncertainties as to what the total cost might be. We can help mitigate those and streamline the process and ultimately create a more scalable, commercially viable long-term transition plan for districts that are interested in either taking a baby step and trying it out or making a full transition over a number of years. Just one quick example of a recent project that we commissioned. The charging infrastructure you can see on the left here. When we come into a depot, we will often run infrastructure underground, not for the first order. The first order might be 5 buses, but we might say, look, the district's got 100 buses in their fleet. We think realistically they could transition 50 of those 100 over the next decade. We'll put the infrastructure underground for all 50. So if expansion is desired in the future, it's already there and available, and we don't have to go back in and rip up the ground and start a new construction project. We think there's a lot of pilots out there that have done very small infrastructure designs, and when they seek to expand, it's going to be very hard. We make the financial bet that expansion to electric will occur over time, and we put the equipment in the ground necessary when we work with a school district. That's all I've prepared. I think the opportunity in Texas is very strong. I think there's incredible environmental benefits and health benefits. When you look at the design of your wholesale and utility energy markets, the opportunity for vehicle to grid is very strong. And we believe that in a couple years, budget neutrality will be a thing of the past. Electric buses will actually be cheaper from a total cost of ownership standpoint and drive savings back to school districts. So happy to take any questions, and thank you very much.
I'd like to actually add something. I'm Mark Riccio, the Vice President of Sales for Highland. And as a takeaway, if you just remember 2 very important aspects of the model that Duncan really did a very good job of communicating. Number 1, we're completely brand agnostic. So we will work with the school district where their present loyalty lies to their brand preference, whether it's E-Lion, whether it's Thomas, whether it's Bluebird, whether it's IC. We will work with the district where their comfort level lies to help them acquire the technology. The second very, very important aspect of the model as a takeaway is our offering is predicated on delivering a product to you, the end user school district, in a budget neutral format, which is to say we will work with you to understand what your present condition diesel TCO or total cost of ownership is, and our offer to switch out those old diesel units with new electric will be predicated upon budget neutrality. So flat impact to budget. And with most budget directors living and dying annually, especially now with COVID, with their budgets, this model is gaining much traction in the market and is really starting to resonate. So I'll just leave you with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
This is Jimmy Hodge. This is an exciting program. You are duplicating what's been called sustainability as a service. You're simply transferring it to electric buses. This, I think, is the answer, because the school districts do not have the ability to manage and plan and control this transition. At least I haven't seen it. How many customers do you have signed on now?
First of all, Jimmy, appreciate your comments. We totally agree. We think districts need complete solutions, and this is a design that's been resonating. We have our first project as a company up and running. We have 6 projects that will go into construction this spring in a handful of months. And the total buses that we'll have on the ground, that we'll have under contract going into construction this spring, is somewhere between 350 and 400 electric school buses across 4 states.
Okay, great. So you have a track record. Second, you, I think, very astutely observed that vehicle to grid is a very important component of this solution. In Texas, at this point in time, there is no one allowed to do vehicle to grid, and the legislature has got to act in its infinite wisdom to change that. Are you active in the current legislative cycle to get that changed?
The short answer is yes. We're working with Advanced Energy Economy, who's on the ground working on these matters directly from a Texas policy standpoint. What I would say is that we think vehicle to grid as a concept is often viewed in its own category. But if the infrastructure and equipment on the ground is designed in the right way and there's scale, we are able today to participate in the ERCOT market. We need UL certified equipment. We need the right protective equipment on the ground to participate in that market. But just using a really simple example, we could participate in the wholesale market, purchase electricity when it's super cheap, and then sell it back during price spikes in the summer. And
right.
that's not necessarily a scalable design for most depots, but for bigger depots with some scale, it is viable. And we think V2G as a sort of category needs more policy support and more development. And it's going to take 5 years, frankly, for it to be, we think, really well-structured and productized. But the short answer is we're involved, and we think Texas has maybe a better opportunity on this topic than anywhere else.
Okay. One more question and I'll shut up. I've been working with Dallas Independent School District for more than a year, quite a bit more than a year. And the situation there is that almost certainly they will have to charge these buses more or less at prime time between 10 o'clock in the morning and about 2 o'clock in the afternoon for the afternoon run. They basically use these buses 3 times in the morning for grade school, middle school, and high school transportation, and then repeat it in the afternoon. So the buses do run a considerable length of time. It's not just one school they service. That being said, they will charge in the evening, and so your idea of using wind power that's being wasted or not used is right on the mark. In your model, does your company negotiate power for the bus operation independent of the school district? Now, the reason I ask that is that Dallas Independent School District has signed a very secretive long-term energy contract, which is very restrictive and would really get in the way of your kind of an operation?
Yeah, we'd have to look at the specifics of the duty cycles of their routes, but we always provide all of the electricity. So in our model, we have our own dedicated primary service from the utility with our own meter and our own everything. We bundle the cost of electricity into the price, the annual fixed price contract. And that allows the district to wash their hands of the risk that electricity prices will go up and down, or picking the charging times will be hard. When we price that, we have to look very closely at the duty cycles so we can build a load profile for the site. And my understanding is if there's very long morning runs or multiple routes, we have to design the infrastructure in a way that that vehicle can sort of be topped off quickly before the afternoon routes. And we found that some in any given district, there's some buses that have shorter route requirements and some buses that are much longer. When you transition to EV, you're rarely doing more than 10% of your fleet at any given point in time. And we just have to design the infrastructure and the charging schedule around those duty cycles. And, specifically, we plan not for tomorrow, but for 10, 11, year 12 of the contract, when the battery is not quite as strong as it was at the beginning. And it all comes down to infrastructure design and planning. And so the bottom line is we would be open to sort of hearing about what Dallas has in terms of restrictions on their energy contract. But our proposal to them would likely be we just create our own independent, meter with our own independent service and take full responsibility for electricity costs.
Very good. Good luck with the ISD and their energy contract. But I don't see any impediments here, especially where you're dealing with you're contracting for your own power.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimmy.
So we're running a little long. We have one more presenter, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with Maggie Clancy of Durham. And Maggie, take your full time. Don't worry. We won't get cut off at 11:30. The meeting will just continue until you're finished. And hopefully everyone can hang with us. And if you want to ask questions at the end, feel free. Go ahead.
Thank you, Amy. Go ahead and share my screen. Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to kind of see some new names and some familiar faces. Certainly, Duncan and Mark from Highland, we've had many chats in terms of how we might be able to deliver fleet electrification for National Express customers. And we've certainly worked with Lion with an existing customer where we have EV in place. So it's wonderful to kind of see everybody and see the level of participation. So Amy and to Savannah, thank you for inviting us to participate. So I'm going to try, Amy, just in respect of everyone's time, to go fairly quickly. Hopefully I had enough coffee to help keep me speedy. But I'm going to give just a brief overview of what National Express does and what our commitment to EV is. What we've learned so far through our implementation with White Plains and what we're hearing from other customers, which may be helpful to hear for the ISDs who are on the line and who are trying to think through what their options are. We've also sort of outlined or sketched some key phases in terms of timing and how what it looks like from a deployment standpoint. I went back and I watched the other webinars, and I know that was a common question that kind of came up about when do we get started? How long does this take? So we've put some parameters around that. Hopefully that will give you some kind of idea. And then I thought it might be helpful just to include what we believe ISDs can do to help us. After all, everyone who is presenting is sort of in response to the demand. And so anything that ISDs can do to help create more demand in the space is only going to make us more cost effective
it more efficient and easier to implement. So I thought I would touch on some of those things just based on what we're seeing and hearing currently. All right, so National Express is a leading transportation provider, school bus operations, and is committed to getting students to school safely, on time, and ready to learn. They also provide local transit, paratransit shuttle solutions to customers across the US. And I've included some numbers here that are often shared, but I can guarantee these numbers were not this high in 2020, given the pandemic. But over 1 million passengers transported daily, almost 300 customer service centers across the US, over 26,000 vehicles operated. So certainly National Express has scale and is very familiar with sort of the operational day-to-day needs that occur. The vision is to earn the partnership, loyalty, and trust of our customers and employees. And I would say the most important word in that is earn. Certainly it's important to be able to get contracts, but it's earning that every single day. That's important from our standpoint, as well as ensuring that from a priorities view that we continue to put safety, people, customers, community, and excellence first. And what's exciting about EV is I think it fits very well to just sort of amplify some of those things in a much more meaningful way. So being in the industry, seeing what's going on, we know that school bus transportation hasn't changed significantly over the years, but now we certainly recognize that it's time to transform to cleaner vehicles. And I think that's ever more present given the pandemic that we've been through and the role that air quality plays in terms of lung health and respiratory health. So it's something I think more and more people are paying attention to. And it's a wonderful thing. I think it's wonderful for our environment. It's wonderful for our communities and certainly our kids. We believe it begins really with choosing and identifying the right partners to sort of take this journey with, who share similar values and share goals for achieving success. So currently the way that National Express is responding is anyone within our customer base that's raising their hand to say, hey, can we learn more about EVs? We are committed to providing as much education about the opportunities and options that exist. But I will say that it does matter the type of customer who is interested in order to taking this forward successfully. It does require a high level of partnership and commitment. Certainly to be a first mover in this space just requires a lot of time and effort in terms of understanding the ins and outs and kind of working together to overcome some of those challenges. And one of the things that we're learning as we're kind of developing and working with our customers is the right customer is one that I think it really does believe in the science behind climate change, as well as really interested in sort of taking the opportunity and leaning into innovation and technology. So those for us, we feel like are typically tend to be our best partners. And then it's personal. I have children in middle school age and elementary school age. My partner, Walter, who's on the phone, does as well. And we believe, that we're doing the right thing. So it goes beyond just a business model. It's personal for us. We believe that this is the right thing to do. And quite frankly, this is the future. Just in the interest of time, I've got a couple slides on here about the benefits of electric school buses and certainly the barriers. And I thought Duncan did an excellent job in sort of sharing what those are. And it's no different, I think, to what we've been hearing and seeing from your other presentations as part of this series. So I guess the important thing to note is that it's pretty consistent in terms of the benefits sort of outweighing some of the challenges, but the challenges do need to be met, certainly. And I think that comes with doing your homework and really identifying who are the right people to kind of solve for those individual needs, and then sharing that common goal of what success looks like. Duncan talked a little bit too about V2G, and we've recently had a success where we reached a milestone in White Plains where we were able to take electricity from the bus and put it back to the grid with our partners in Lion and Nuvi and Con Ed. So that was quite significant. And so we're going to take learnings from that and see how we can certainly scale that for other customers who are interested as part of their infrastructure plan. I wanted to just share a little bit more about what we've learned from White Plains, in particular, questions about funding and timing. So the way that White Plains sort of started was through a conversation of sort of key folks within National Express and Lion and Nuvi and the utility provider Con Ed, who said, do you think this is something that we should explore and something that we should do? It'd be really exciting to be sort of the first ones out in this space. And that was back in 2017. We reached out to the White Plains Superintendent and Transportation Director, who were both pretty ambitious leaders within their district and community, and they were all for it. So together the group were able to implement 5 electric school buses, and it took about 18 months in order to do that. The funding for that, I don't believe they relied on any grant support for that initiative, but Con Ed, who is the utility provider, did provide some funding to support being able to get that off the ground. And the interesting thing too about some of the timing with this is there are a lot of different ways and creative ways to fund these projects. A lot of folks just want to get started. And so you'll see there is some eagerness in order to lean in and take on some of that risk, just so that they can get some customers under their belt to show that this can be done and to create some momentum in the system. So I think it's important to not only explore what grant opportunities exist, but also which partners are really eager to get this off the ground and get this moving. The other thing that I think is important to not forget is the experience of the drivers within this space. I know we talk a lot about the kids in the community, which is important, of course, but when we worked on this project with White Plains, it was great to hear from a driver experience how much they enjoyed driving the bus and the safety features that come along with that. I think that's quite significant and important to note. And I will say that sometimes it's nice for ISDs to talk directly to other bus operators who have been doing this for a few years, as well as transportation directors or superintendents who have taken the leap to making this happen. And I'm happy to connect folks who have specific questions or want to talk to folks who have already gone through this to maybe hear some candid feedback or get some of their experience to learn from. The second point I will say is educate, educate, educate. One thing that we've learned in talking with our customers is, this is complicated. There is a lot to wrap your head around. It's not just whether you need grant funding, but it's which grant funding works for you. I agree with building infrastructure for scaling later on. That makes sense. But then what kind of charges do you put in place? Do you anticipate V2G at this stage, or does that something that comes in later? So there is a lot of different ways in which you can deliver this. We have found that it's important to communicate as much as you can, as often as you can, with community members, with school board members, et cetera. And I think you'll have many willing partners, whether it be Bluebird, whether it be Lion, whether
Dazo.
it be... I'm sorry? Okay. The other piece I would say is that money matters, and this is sort of the lens in which Amy had asked us to present on, and from a financial standpoint, really planning for your grant needs. And I would say that, and the folks who sort of manage the grants may be able to echo this, but really understanding the parameters of the grant, the evaluation of what qualifies for the grant and the story that needs to be told in terms of the impact on the environment is really, really important to include that as part of your application. So when we look at applying for grants, we have spoken to the Lion team, for example, to say, what can we learn from you in terms of what's the best way to approach? And again, it's a partnership approach. When applying for grants, we would partner with a Lion or and other community members to say, this is the plan, we're behind it, this is the benefit, to ensure that as these applications are being evaluated, that we can maximize the benefit of that. I'd also say that what we're seeing is the time is now. I think this is a first mover advantage sort of market, and we don't believe grants are going to be here forever. And as more and more people come on board, the less money there will be perhaps available to those that are seeking to implement this. So we do think that this is such a sweet spot, given what's going on politically, given the moves that are going on legislatively, that we could take advantage of that opportunity to sort of set the pace for how this is going to then follow in the next few years. And then going back to what Duncan was saying about building for scale in the future from an infrastructure standpoint, you don't want to necessarily have to go back and go underneath the ground to build for more vehicles or to allow for more vehicles to come in at a later date. It's really best to kind of build with a future-proofing lens. Okay, so these are the phases that I was talking about earlier. This is sort of what we have shared with some of our customers in terms of timing and what it takes to really kind of get this over the line. And the reason why, the first phase is sort of getting to proposal is sometimes with a lot of times with the grant opportunities, you have to do a lot of your homework and apply for those grants. And then after you receive those grants is when you can actually do official RFPs, whether it be with the OEMs or the infrastructure partners that you're talking with. So we sort of put around 1 to 3 months for this, depending on how quickly the district wants to move and the amount of education and selling in that's required. The second half is sort of the integration and delivery from, purchasing the fleet and setting up the electrification within the depot. And then of course, there's the ongoing support, which is what we're working with White Plains in terms of making sure that we're continuing to progress through a technology with vehicle to grid, as well as just maintenance on the vehicles. And then sort of what are the future needs from a telematics perspective that we want to continue to explore and support them scaling out in the future. So finally, how can ISDs help? When I asked the transportation director in White Plains, what was it that really supported him in convincing the community or getting support that going forward with electric vehicles was the right thing for them? And he said, honestly, it was the ride and drive events that we had where we could physically have a bus there for the community to touch and feel and ask questions of the different OEMs. And I know that Bluebird, as well as Lion has participated with us in some events as well, are more than willing to support and to have these events in order to help to educate the community. And it does get everyone sort of excited. It creates a buzz, it gets you some press and builds some momentum. The other piece is including EV requirements in your RFPs. As a school bus operator, the more that we're seeing EV requirements within our RFPs, the more that people start to pay attention and say, this is something that we have to figure out how to resolve. And folks can come up with many different creative ways in order to do that. But if the demand is there, then the solutions will be there as well. Reaching out to your utility companies early on in the process was something that was expressed in the webinars, the first 2 webinars that you had, and absolutely that is one of the first steps, I would say, in terms of exploring what your options are. I would also say a single project owner with a clear decision-making process is really important. It was a project that we weren't involved in, but there was a project I had heard up Northeast where they had some momentum, but there just wasn't alignment between local government, district, community in terms of what the vision and the actual, what success looked like. So things kind of fell apart. So I can't impress enough how important it is to sort of have that alignment and clear direction in terms of who is making the decisions. Communicating your must-haves. We say cost neutral. Makes total sense that districts don't want to see an increase in cost, what your timing expectations are, and if you do need support with stakeholder alignment, what that looks like and who those are. A lot of times being able to express very specific parameters will only help service providers be able to provide the right solution for you sooner than later, because you can kind of go down a few rabbit holes in terms of what the best solution is, and then it takes a while to kind of get back to where you need to be with what success looks like. And then finally, becoming advocates and supportive to those who are interested in fleet electrification. So one of the things that has been helpful to us is, as we're talking to customers who are raising their hands, we've connected them to the other superintendents and transportation directors within our network who are leaning in and have been able to express to them what they see success looks like and maybe what some of the challenges are. And if this is something that you're thinking of taking on, I think continuing to be advocates for it within your industry, within your network, within your communities, is only going to serve to create more momentum in the space and continue to make it easier to scale and go forward in the future. And then I think finally, I have our contact information, and I put pictures of us from when we rode school buses. So that's my 4th grade picture. I've also included a picture of what I thought Walter probably looked like in 4th grade. Based on his description of having a mullet. He would not supply me with a picture, but I did the best I could. So that's all I've got. And Amy, I guess I'll throw it back to you and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, anyone that wants to ask questions of Maggie, just unmute and ask away.
Sorry if I went a little fast. I was trying to keep it within the...
No worries. Also, I wanted to point out that Savannah has posted a survey link in the chat, which is would give us feedback and help us with future webinars. If you would all please fill that out.
I'd just like to reiterate, if anyone wants to be connected in to some of our current customers who have implemented this or exploring implementing this, just to have a conversation in order to glean some understanding of what their process was, I'm happy to make those connections on their behalf.
Maggie, this is Jimmy Hodge.
Hello, Jimmy.
Would you do a comparison for me between your company and Highland? What are the similarities and differences between your two approaches?
Certainly. So to be honest, they're very similar. It's a similar model. It's a model that we think makes sense. We're currently a school bus operator. So some of our sub-brands are Durham or Peterman, which you may be familiar with. So what we're doing right now is we're working with our existing customer set. And at times we've brought Highland in actually to help consult or to present to our customers to provide some options as part of the education part. But it's in terms of being customer advocates, not being tied to a specific service or I should say product. We're here to create options that best fit our customers' current needs and really sort of help to mitigate some of that risk in terms of the upfront cost by taking that on ourselves. And so similar model, we are just sort of part of the outsourced group in terms of how we provide our services from a National Express standpoint. Did that help to answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
You got it.
Anyone else have a question? Also, feel free to ask your question in the chat. We'll read it for you. I wanted to thank everyone for attending, and especially thank you to our presenters. It's been a great webinar today, and it's been a great webinar series. So thank you all. So we can hang just for another minute, see if anyone has a question.
Hey, Jimmy, this is Mark Riccio. Could you write your information in the chat bar? So we'd like to follow up with you to have an offline conversation. Or if you just want to email me directly, I put my information in the notes line in the chat. Thanks.
Well, thank you all, everyone. And like I said, the recording and the presentation slides will all be posted on our website, dfwcleancities.org. We will email all the attendees of the webinar with that link so that you all have access. But thank you all so much for participating today, and thank you to our presenters.
Thanks so much, Amy and Savannah, for including us.
Great to have you.